Academy with Dr. Hashemi, the series where the partial discharge concepts are explained step by step. Today's episode topic is about the time of measurement of the partial discharge and when you should measure the partial discharge. First of them is in the step of designing and development. It means if you design a new product, you should pass the type test and design verifications. In this stage, you need to measure the partial discharge and know the details of the insulation materials. In the development and new design, if you change the design of the product, like the cable system, power transformers, you should measure the partial discharge and find the eventual defects and problems in the new design. In this case and in this step, the partial discharge measurement is done by the laboratory, reference laboratory, and accredited labs. The second step that you measure the partial discharge is related to the FAT, Factory Acceptance Test, Routine Test, and Manufacturing and Productions. It means if you produce different assets, you should measure the partial discharge of the high voltage systems like the power transformer, cables, insulators, and be sure that the system is working well. Because during the manufacturing, maybe some problems occur, and everything should be under the control. By the partial discharge measurement, you have a detailed result of the insulation and dielectric that you have produced. The third time that it is necessary to measure the PD is SAT, or Site Acceptance Test levels. During the commissioning and after installations, you should check the system is working well, because before transportation of the transformer or other high voltage assets, the system was working well. But after transportation, maybe there are some new problems. You should measure the partial discharge. The second time or second item to measure partial discharge is related to the failure detection or early failure detection. Most of the failures in the high voltage systems occurs in 1 to 3 years after installation. In this stage, it is so important to measure the partial discharge. By this measurement, you can have a better condition of the system that you want to operate. 1 to 3 years after installation, you measure the partial discharge to increase the reliability of the system. You have a more reliable system and more reliable system operation by PD monitoring and monitoring of the high voltage systems. If the system is aged and the system is in the wear out period, by partial discharge measurement, you can expand the lifetime of the asset. It means if the transformer lifetime is 30 or 35 years, you can measure the partial discharge at the end of the lifetime, and if the partial discharge level is in the acceptable level, you can expand the usage of that transformer. This is so important because sometimes there are limits in the budget, there are some limits in the timeline of the manufacturing new transformers. Today we discussed the topic of when to measure the partial discharge, summarized the time that you measure based on the asset life cycle from the design to the end of the asset that you have. Thank you for watching. We see you in the next episode.